Welcome to the Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to the Week 13 Steeler preview here at The Spread. I am your host, Jim Sella, flying solo once again. Parlay, another week off. Got to finish that kitchen before that big party he has every year on Christmas Eve. Nobody wants to miss it. The Steelers squeaked out a win against the Green Bay Packers last week, having to rely on a last-minute catch by Tony Toe Tap and another field goal by Chris Boswell to beat the Packers 31-28. Little closer than I expected, although I didn't think the Steelers were going to cover the 14.5-point spread. Rarely does Pittsburgh cover that spread. Green Bay is not terrible, but they're not good. They're not as bad as people thought. Hundley, he was finally getting into the game a little bit. Probably had his best game as a pro. You got to think a guy of his caliber is going to have an okay game here or there. Really, it was the big plays. If the Steelers cut down on the big plays in that game, then he really didn't have a good day at all. So some poor tackling by that Pittsburgh Steeler defense kind of made it look like Hundley had a better day than he did. Although you got to give him credit. He put the points on the board. He put his team in a position to win. Unfortunately, Roethlisberger and Tony Toe Tap were able to get it done in the last drive of the game and pull that one out for Pittsburgh. Fans, any questions or comments? We want to hear what you think about the game last week. Hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Hit me up on Twitter at betjimthewin. Or go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/betthespread. Throw the comments down here in the YouTube page. It doesn't matter. Comment about last week's game on this week's segment. We don't mind. We're the spread. We love all comments. This week, the Pittsburgh Steelers are taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Monday Night Football. Hank Williams Jr. getting rowdy, baby. Pittsburgh Steelers in Cincinnati. I'm not 100% sure, but I think Roethlisberger's something like 11-2 in the regular season in Cincinnati. I think he's 2-0 in the playoffs over in Cincinnati. He's pretty much owned the Bengals. He's only lost to the Bengals, I think, 7 times in his whole career. I don't know if that number is exactly correct. These are numbers that I looked at a while ago, so I'm trying to struggle to remember them. So don't quote me on that or hate on me in the comments if I got it wrong. But Big Ben in that offense, 31 points. You know, you keep asking them to score 30. They put up 40 on Tennessee. Then they put up 31 on Green Bay. You got to say they did their job. They were able to pull it out at the end. Big catch by Antonio Brown. Big throw by Ben Roethlisberger. And big kick by Chris Boswell. You don't think they should have to do that to be able to win that football game. That defense definitely needs to shape up if they're going to want to win this game here against Cincinnati. No, I'm not going to sit here and say Cincinnati has some high-powered offense. Everybody knows that I hate Andy Dalton and that I think he's complete garbage, and his fire crotch throwing ability is just beat nuts. But they're a division team. They're a team that really wants to knock Pittsburgh down a pedestal, or off the pedestal, I guess you want to say. The Steelers at 9-2, holding the number 1 seed in the AFC for the playoffs so far. The Bengals would really, really love to take a game from Pittsburgh here. They'd love to be the reason the Steelers lose that number 1 seed to the New England Patriots and have to go into Gillette Stadium to face them in the AFC Championship game if they get that far. We all know Andy Dalton's garbage, as I mentioned before, but the Bengals do have some talent there on the offensive side of the ball. Everybody knows about A.J. Green. This guy's 53 receptions, somewhere around 800 yards. I think he has 5 or 6 touchdowns. Joe Mixon coming on a little bit as late, somewhere around 4 touchdowns, almost 500 yards. Andy Dalton, I think he's got 18 touchdowns and 8 INTs, it says here. That's not too bad, but we still hate him here on the spread, so we're just going to say Andy Dalton's garbage no matter what this guy does. You know he likes to choke as it gets later into the season. You know how the Steelers love to win in December. I can't remember their December record off the top of my head the last few years, but I know they have one of the top 2 or 3 records in the month of December in the NFL in the last, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 seasons. The Steelers love to turn it on late, already at 9-2. I don't know if I had them at 9-2 in this point in the season. I can't remember what me and Dash said when we did our preview show. I believe we both had them ending the season at 11-5. I don't think they're going to lose 3 games again through the rest of the season. I think maybe 2 games, if anything. So we're hoping here for 12-4 now at the spread. Whether that'll happen, we'll have to see. But we all know the Steelers love primetime. We all know Big Ben and Mike Tomlin love primetime. And as I mentioned before, Tony Toe Tap's getting it done like no receiver has before. This guy has 80 receptions for 1,195 yards and 8 touchdowns this year. I think he has, 4 or 5 somewhere around touchdowns in the last 2 games alone. Colin Cowherd, I think that's how you say that dude's name. I hate him so much I won't even watch his show. I don't care how you say his name. He came out and said that the Steelers relied too much on their stars and have to win with their stars. I got a few things wrong with that statement. First of all, since when has it been a bad thing to let your best players win football games for you? When is that a bad thing? When you have stars like Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Juju, you got Martavis Bryant making a few big plays here or there. You have some big-time players on defense. Who else is going to make a play? I mean, Jesse James has made a few plays here and there. Grimble had a touchdown on that little shovel pass, or maybe it was just a 2-point conversion. I can't remember. But what does he expect? Does he think they're going to put Justin Hunter in there to start the game and let him run down the field and throw him a deep pass, score a touchdown? The stars are going to win the game because that's what Pittsburgh has. They have stars. They don't have jamokes like other teams. And as far as letting stars win the game, I've never heard anybody complain about New England letting Tom Brady win the games for them. He's their number 1 offensive star, isn't he? That's what good quarterbacks do. They win football games. That's what Brady does. He wins football games. I just don't understand this statement by Colin Cowherd at all. He calls himself a professional in this business, and he just goes out and makes himself look like an ass when he says shit like that. Some teams are saying Pittsburgh's going to choke in the New England game. Don't look ahead to the New England game. I see a lot of fans on social media saying the team's looking ahead. I don't think the team is looking ahead this year like other years. I think fans are looking ahead. I think the media is looking ahead. They definitely want to look ahead and start a riot or just a panic so that they can get better ratings. I don't think Pittsburgh's looking ahead at all. I think they're focused on the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they know what they need to do whenever they go into Cincinnati to win this football game. They have their eye on the prize. Now, the thing that worries me, the defense. And I know I just said they've had some stars on defense. They do have some stars on defense. Their defense has been playing great. I believe they still have, the 4th ranked pass defense in football right now. But it's starting to take some hits. Joe Hayden going out really hurt the Steelers defense a little more than most people thought. First of all, not hating, just saying, Cody Sensabaugh, you're not a starting quarterback in the NFL. You're a spot starter. You're a guy who can come in and play some slot. You're a guy who adds depth. You're a guy who's good on special teams. I'm not hating. You're just not a starter. My other thought is, without Joe Hayden, teams are able to go after Artie Burns a little bit more and try to expose Artie in the little bit of troubles that he does have. Now, let's remember, Artie didn't even start for the Steelers until I think it was after the bye week last year, somewhere around between week 7 and 9, something like that. So then he's played 11 games this year. So he has, counting playoff games, a little over a season's worth of experience as a starter in the NFL. And I see people on social media especially tearing this guy down. I don't understand it. He does struggle a little bit making tackles. He's not the best corner to come up and stuff the running back in the backfield. I'm not going to say he's great. At that, anyway. But he's not terrible. He's a number 1 pick. He's a guy that everybody loved last year because he was making some big plays. And everybody loved him this year until Joe Hayden got hurt and teams were able to go after Artie a little bit more. Everybody's rushing to judgment because they heard that moron Chris Collinsworth call out Burns. And yeah, Burns did blow on one of those big touchdowns. It was clearly his fault. He followed the wrong route. But at the same time, if he doesn't follow Jordy Nelson on the post route on that play, then Jordy's wide open. He's going to catch a pass. Maybe he doesn't break it for a touchdown, but he's still halfway to the end zone. So who really knows what would happen there? You can't look back on plays, especially when you're a cornerback in the NFL. You have to just look ahead. Mistakes happen, bad plays happen at every position. The fact is the Steelers still won, and the defense is playing okay. But they really need to stop giving up those big plays. I can understand Artie's going to miss some tackles. I know Cody's not the best cover corner, so there's going to be some times where he has to just let the receiver catch it and tackle him. The problem is, you're going to run into a team like New England, or a team with a methodical offense, where they're going to be able to put up points just because they're good. And then if you blow those plays, they're going to capitalize on those as well. So it'll be a little harder to stop those methodical offenses. Now here in Cincinnati, I don't know if I would call them a methodical offense at all, honestly. They're 25th in points per game, 32nd in yards per game, 28th in passing, and 31st in rushing. So their offense isn't scaring anybody this week. But again, division game, they know what they want. They know they want to knock Pittsburgh out of here. So this defense has got to be careful not to give up the big play to A.J. Green, not to give up the big play to Joe Mixon. Mixon's fast. If they can catch him on a screen pass, he'll definitely make the Steelers defenders look as dumb as the Green Bay offensive players were last week as far as tackling goes. And I'm not hating. I love our defense. I love the youth, the speed, the aggressiveness. I love everything about it. But the bottom line is, without Joe Hayden, the pass defense is not quite as good. And, I mean, that's just obvious. Hayden's a first-round pick. They need to try to get Hayden back, but at the same time, they don't want to rush him back. So you're still winning the football games. Yeah, you're going to go for this number 1 seed, but the real thing you want with Hayden is to be 100% healthy going into the playoffs. That's what you need him for. At this point, unless you completely tank, you know you're making the playoffs. So that's what Pittsburgh needs to focus on. They need to focus on playing well every week. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying overlook each team. I'm not saying just go ahead and not care what happens to your pass defense. You still make adjustments. You still try to move guys in and out of the lineup. Maybe Cam Sutton starts to get some reps in place of Cody Sensabaugh, or maybe Mike Hilton gets to move out there and Sutton moves into the slot. Who knows? Either way, that pass defense needs to just tighten up a little bit. The one thing I would like to say is I'd like to see Sean Davis start to make some plays. I know he's been banged up a little bit this year, and I'm not calling him out saying he's not making any plays, but I thought this guy would be a little bit more of a ball hawk, more of an Ed Reed type playmaker where he gets, I don't want to say a lot of interceptions. I don't expect him to get 10 or anything, but somewhere between 6 to 8 interceptions, which is a lot for a defensive player. But he's a player of that caliber. He's a playmaker that can really change a game. I haven't really seen those types of plays from him this year, although he's been pretty consistent back there for what he has to do. So again, I don't have any complaints about him. I just think it'd be cool if he could get it up a little bit and kick that play into an extra gear. Last I read, Juju and Vance McDonald may be able to play this week. I think Mike Mitchell might actually be able to play this week again also, although I don't think I have that one confirmed as of yet. Obviously, we were just talking about Joe Hayden. He's not going to play this week. Offensively, you think that the Steelers should be able to go out and just keep rolling, right? 40 points against Tennessee, 31 points against Green Bay. So you think they're going to come out here and put up 30 in a place where Ben Roethlisberger's historically dominated the Bengals? Andy Dalton is just, he's Andy Dalton. He'll have a good game and it'll look good for a stretch, but the dude always chokes at the last minute anyway. So I'm actually surprised that he's even still starting at this point. I do remember saying in the preview show that if the Bengals were struggling enough this year, I thought A.J. McCarron might be able to take over by now. But I guess that 5-6 isn't quite struggling enough, although they pretty much have no shot at the division right now. So as far as my keys to victory for Pittsburgh, it's a tough one. The Steelers, obviously on defense, just stop giving up the big play, I think, as far as this week goes, against the Bengals. I don't think the Bengals have a prolific enough offense where if you can cut down on those big plays to 0 or only 1 as far as giving up a big play to the offense, obviously that gives you a much better chance to win the game. That's just common sense. But it just gives the Steelers defense in general a much better chance at winning the game. You don't want to get exposed. I said it last week. You didn't want to let the Packers get off to a hot start so that you're trying to play catch up. You need to get out ahead. Offense, get out ahead. Defense, make some plays early. Get a lead, a 14-0 lead. When's the last time we've seen the Steelers just sitting on a 14-0 lead going into the second quarter? That's something I want to see. Not something that you have to see. I'm happy that they're winning games, Not complaining how they win games. A win is a win, especially in the NFL. But you just want to see them not have to stress themselves as much, especially moving late into the year. You want to see these guys be able to relax a little, you know? Go out, make some big plays early, make some big plays late. Just make big plays all day and win this football game. But let's put them away early. Let's give Cincinnati an early Christmas present. Let's just beat the hell out of them in the first half so that they can just go sit in the little girl's room and lay down and cry for halftime. Come back out, beat the hell out of them again, then they can go home. They never should have stomped on the terrible tower or whatever Hushmanzada did with it, wiped his shoes with it. Ever since then, they've been screwed. But anyway, keys to victory. Defense, stop giving up those big plays. Offense, just keep doing what you're doing the last 3 weeks, 2 weeks. Good game against Tennessee, although some of those points were because of the turnovers from the defense, but that happens. Good game against Green Bay. I like what they're doing. It looks like Ben Roethlisberger's coming on as of late. He does struggle on the road usually, but the one place he does play well is Cincinnati, so it'll be good to see him go out, get a victory, put some points on the board. I think Lev Bell has a shot at going over 100 or over 1,000 yards, for the season. Antonio Brown has a chance to probably catch 100 balls by the end of this game. The way this guy's going, I feel like it's just going to be a good game for Pittsburgh. And as far as my official prediction, I know I sound like a homer, but I've been picking some closer games here, but I think Pittsburgh can come out. I finally think they have one of those games where they just honestly dominate from beginning to end. Nothing Cincinnati does really scares me outside of being able to make some big plays. So as long as the defense can stop that from happening, maybe Cincinnati gets 17 points. I'm going to say Pittsburgh can roll up 28. So 28-17 Pittsburgh. 11-point victory for the Steelers. Hopefully this is wrapped up by, midway through the third quarter and Cincinnati gets maybe a garbage time touchdown. These nail biters are killing me, especially these night games. I start having nightmares about things that could happen and then I can't sleep and I can't work the next day. It's stressful. The Steelers need to do us all a favor, all us Steeler fans. Give us one game where we don't have to bite our nails and throw our nachos across the room and yell at the TV. Give us that one game, especially against the Bengals. Nobody likes them. Beat the hell out of the Bengals. Fans, questions, comments, hit us up on Twitter. Bet_the_spread. @BetJimTheWin. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/betthespread. Come to our YouTube page. Click subscribe. Share it with your friends. It's Christmas time. DMX sings Rudolph online, so you know you want to share the spread online.